everyone. We just got the message that the recording has started. I want to thank everyone for being here for our weekly community update call. And even more important, today is election day across this great nation. So there's a lot going on today. So I just, again, want to say good morning to everyone. This is Commissioner Dave Yamamoto. Today is Election Day, Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. And we will call this meeting to order at 8 a.m. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to please mute your phones. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute yourself when called to speak. And again, pressing *6. It is very important for all others to remain muted. Thank you. So let's start, as we always do, with the Board of Commissioners roll call. Commissioner Bell, are you there?
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. And Commissioner Scar?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. We're off and rolling to it's a beautiful morning outside. As we do every Tuesday morning, we start with Adventist Health Tillamook. Eric Swanson. Eric, are you with us?
I am. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
So the number of hospitalized patients with COVID-19 across Oregon is 230, 16 less than yesterday. By the way, this is November 2 data. There are 33 COVID-19 patients in intensive care unit beds, one less than yesterday. 11 of those are on ventilators. 2.7% of all emergency department visits across Oregon were for COVID-like illness. There were 4,383 of those visits yesterday. There are 19 available adult ICU beds out of 345 total. That's 6% availability. 81 available adult non-ICU beds out of 1,914. That's 4% availability. That's Region 1 data. This morning, we have 14 patients in the hospital. No COVID patients, no patients boarding in the emergency department. We have 10 surgery cases scheduled today. All are elective or non-urgent. Our ambulance crews did 9 911 transports yesterday and 2 transfers. Dr. Peter Graven at OHSU gave his COVID update on November 2nd, and he's reporting that as of the 2nd, 230 people were in Oregon hospitals with COVID, and that number has been flat for over the prior 8 weeks. COVID hospitalizations appear moderate in the Northeast and Europe. This bodes well for a mild initial seasonal wave in Oregon. RSV is surging across the United States and in states next to Oregon, like Washington and California. And flu is starting much earlier than usual across the South. COVID levels in wastewater have been relatively flat across Oregon and generally low elsewhere in the U.S. Visits to the emergency department for COVID-like illness remain flat, and test positivity also remains flat. And let's see, hospitalizations in the Northeast and Europe have peaked at lower levels than expected, and which is good news. New variants are not having a notable effect, while many variants are becoming more common, none at the level of Delta or Omicron. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you here? I'll scroll down. Oh, this is some fun news. Most of you know, probably on this call, know Pat Valeni. She's worked here at our hospital. She's our infection prevention nurse. She's been here for 44 years, and she was honored this month as the Associate of the Month, which is a nomination made by her peers. And so we congratulate Pat and thank her for 44 years. She's going strong, and she says she's not quitting anytime soon, which is great from my standpoint. You'll notice if you're in the hospital or in our clinics on November 9th or 10th, there's going to be some work going on. We are replacing a bunch of furniture throughout our hospital, and we're doing that for infection prevention reasons. Furniture that are in our lobbies need to be cleanable, and during COVID, many of the harsh cleaning chemicals took the finish off the wood arms of chairs. So we're going to be replacing those, and you'll see a whole bunch of new furniture out and about in the hospital. So if you're around on the 9th or 10th, please excuse our mess. So unless you have questions, that's all I've got for you this morning.
Thank you, as always, Eric, for being with us. Do we have any questions for Eric Swanson? Eric, I've got just a couple. Hope you don't mind.
No, I don't.
I keep hearing about RSV.
Yep.
And that's my understanding that affects mostly young children. can you give us just a little bit of a background on RSV and what it is?
Yeah, so it's a respiratory virus that usually causes mild cold-like symptoms, and the CDC says that it's mainly in children, and because of this is my opinion, because of everything that's happened with COVID in the last couple of years, we haven't seen much of RSV, but it's the most common cause of bronchiolitis or inflammation of the small airways in the lung, and pneumonia in children younger than 1 year of age. So if you're really concerned that your little one might have RSV, and I guess adults can have it as well, make sure that you either come into the emergency department, urgent care, contact your primary care. So some of the symptoms of RSV: runny nose, decrease in appetite, coughing, sneezing, fever, wheezing, those sorts of things. And usually they go away in a week or two. But if it's serious, again, get right in and let one of the great providers we have in our community take care of you.
Thank you for that. I've always wondered exactly what RSV was, and you've clarified that for me. I appreciate that. The other question, it appears COVID has not roared back in this country, but it's my understanding that the flu is much more predominant. Can you give us just a quick update on where flu cases stand in the area?
I don't even have any data on flu, and that might be something that the health department has a better handle on, but I don't have any flu data other than we are giving flu vaccines, and now is the time to get your vaccine. So,
okay, perfect.
You can get that all over Tillamook County. Any healthcare providers in Tillamook County can get you your flu vaccine. But I'd defer the other question to Marlene and her team.
Perfect. Appreciate that very much, Eric. As always, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. So let's move on to the Coastal Caucus. I know we have Representative Gomberg and Representative Weber with us. With that, I'll just, so I want to wish both of you a happy and successful election day, and I'll turn it over to the Coastal Caucus.
Good morning. I hope I'm off mute.
Yes. Good morning, Representative Weber.
What a beautiful day it is out there, isn't it?
It's gorgeous.
It's
Matter of
making
fact,
it so much easier for people to be able to vote. They don't have to worry about running through the rain in order to get to the ballot box.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I was in the clerk's office and I saw you walking your dog right outside the door of the courthouse this morning.
Yes, and I was just amazed at how many people were already at that time turning in their ballots.
Yeah,
it was
amazing. Yes.
It was amazing. So I went to the Pacific City and Nestucca Valley Chamber last week, and I thought that was a very interesting meeting. Terry Cooper from the Economic Development Commission was there to talk about the proposed county business license that is going to, the funds will be used to benefit economic development. And there are going to be 2 hearings coming up, one at the end of the month and one in December, to talk about this with the county commission. And if you have an opinion, I hope that you express it. And I'm not going to give you the dates for that because I think it's important that people, when they hear about something, they do their research and they find out what they need to be able to go forward. So look for that if you have an opinion. I also was able to attend the Oregonians for Food and Shelter annual conference in Salem. And you may not know this, but we have the Tillamook Working Lands and Water Cooperative here. And this is the group that shepherds our working lands and waters throughout the state. And I had the privilege of attending 2 great sessions, one on conflict resolution and communication, and the other was by one of the lobbyists for the group talking about the upcoming election and things that are going to be happening that can impact our natural resources. And I also was really pleased. There were awards given, of course, as the evening went on. And Lindsay Davis from Clatsop County was honored for all of her work in Clatsop County and throughout the state. Lindsay works for Hampton, and she has done a great job in coordinating all of the efforts. But there were two other people that also had a connection with the coast that were honored, and one of them was Tammy Kerr. And Tammy, is a Fletcher, and, that's another family name here. And she is also a real mover and shaker in the dairy community and throughout the state. And we're so grateful for everything that she has done. And the other person that was honored was Diane Washburn. And Diane Washburn works for Oregonians for Food and Shelter. And I don't know if any of you remember, the Washburns had their reforestation company here in Tillamook. And Diane and her husband, Paul, both graduated from Tillamook High School. And so we have a real core group of people here on the coast that are really committed to our natural resources. And then on Saturday, oh my gosh, the Tillamook Swiss Centennial, that was, if you didn't have an opportunity to go to that, and they're planning on doing it again, we really need to acknowledge the work that Julie Hurleman and Visit Tillamook Coast did. That was a great event. And here we had a flood one day, and then we had this the other day, and we had people here in Tillamook from all over the United States to be able to see this, because, of course, there was the Swing Fest and the rock tossing and the cornhole tournament and the quilt show and amazing display of Tillamook Swiss heritage as we celebrated the 100th anniversary. And then, of course, when I first came here, the really great thing to do was to go to an old-fashioned Swiss stomp. And there was a Swiss stomp, and everyone that I have talked to had an absolute wonderful time. So besides, they threw so much into that day, there had to be something for everyone that attended, because there was a fun run, there was beer and wine, there was food, there was singing, there was dancing, there was yodeling. You could even throw axes there. It was so much fun. So I really want to commend them for going forward with this, even when we had a flood to contend with. I also met with two Erics, the Eric from Astoria and the Eric from Tillamook, who are our North Coast Hospital CEOs, to discuss their unique health challenges and issues. And that was a very interesting to see how we move down the coast and how the health issues impact us. So I'll quit today, but I'm going to say, vote. Turn in your ballot. My mother always used to say, if you didn't vote, you couldn't complain, because you had no basis for your complaint. So, there you go. Have a great day. Get your ballot in.
Sound advice, Representative Weber. Thank you, as always, for being here. Representative Gumberg.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Tillamook County. Still on the Election Day theme, if you have not yet voted and plan to, and I certainly encourage you to plan to, please use the local drop boxes. If you plan to put your ballot in the mail, be aware of when your mail is being picked up, because if you miss the pickup time and your ballot is postmarked tomorrow, it will not count. If it's postmarked today, it will count, even if the clerk doesn't receive it in the mail for a couple of days. The other thing I would say about that is simply that if you do use a drop box, that your vote will be counted more quickly and will be part of the results that we will likely hear tonight, although if you vote later in the afternoon, those results will probably be later in the evening. But find out where your local drop boxes are, use those. If you're going to use the mail, make sure that you do so in a way so your ballot is postmarked, today. A couple of other things very quickly about today's election. I just want to give a shout out to all of the crew down at the clerk's office, the regular workers, the volunteer workers, the poll watchers that are there keeping an eye on things. This is a critical election. All of our elections are critical, but there's an awful lot of attention to what's going on within the voting process. And I just wanted to say how much we appreciate the good people that are doing all of that work to make sure that our elections are well managed and well executed and and properly counted. Finally, on the election front, by the time we gather next week, there will be new representation for Tillamook County. Those people will not take office until just after the beginning of the year, but we will know who our new senator is and who our new representative is. And there may be some new faces there. There may be some familiar faces there. One way or the other, there will be some changes there. And we might want to consider inviting some of those people to, if they are new, to come in and start joining these meetings with us every Tuesday morning. I plan to stay with you till the beginning of the year, after which point I will no longer be representing any part of Tillamook County, and I say that with great regret. Earlier this last week, I was able to address the State of the Coast Conference, which took place down in Newport at the Hatfield Marine Science Center. Got to stand up in front of about 300 people and talk about infrastructure, which I think is so critically important here on the coast. And I talked about the challenges that we're facing. You've heard me say it before, Commissioners, that small towns are often facing big projects that they just can't afford for water and sewer and ports and parks. And how does a small community get the millions of dollars, that they may need to complete those projects if they don't get help from the state or from the federal government? And we've had great success these past couple of years, but that's because there's been a unique number of dollars available to us. And the challenges continue as we look at more projects that are either aging out or need of replacement or new ideas that we need to move forward. The biggest new infrastructure project along the I think is going to have a dramatic impact are plans down in Coos Bay to build a major container shipping port there. It would be the 5th container port along the west coast of the U.S. from Los Angeles to Seattle. And it is certainly our last deep water port on the Pacific along the Oregon coast. This is a huge project that's going to create thousands of construction jobs and about 2,000 to 3,000 permanent jobs, and also ease some of the constrictions we're currently seeing on container shipping up and down the West Coast, as well as getting some of those products into Oregon more quickly and some of Oregon's good exports out of Oregon more effectively. Remember that the Coos Bay port is served by a rail line down there, so there's going to be the ability to offload those containers and get them on their way effectively. That's a big deal. The final thing I said to the group when I was talking to them about infrastructure is that too often once we have infrastructure in place, we start to take it for granted. You don't worry about water coming out of the tap. You only worry when it stops coming out of the tap. But there are plenty of successes. There's plenty of good work being done. I pointed to the Hatfield building that we were meeting in because not only is it a beautiful building, not only are they doing remarkable research there that's going to address the scourge of climate change and ocean chemistry changes and threats to our marine wildlife, but also it's the most advanced seismically earthquake and tsunami-proof building in the United States, possibly in the world. And that success there is providing an example of what we could do locally, because eventually the ground's going to start shaking here, and our options are either to move away and abandon the coastline that we all love so much, or to better prepare for a major earthquake and tsunami. And construction like the work that they did at Hatfield is a great example of how we can build back better and not necessarily spend more money doing so. So that's a little bit about infrastructure this morning, possibly more than you wanted to hear. Two quick things as I close. The first is that Veterans Day is coming up very quickly. And that's a special day to recognize the men and women who have served. We need to recognize them every day, but particularly recognize them on Veterans Day. And we also need to make sure that every day that we're providing them with the services, the supports, the benefits that they have earned, that they deserve, and in too many cases they really need. My understanding is that we are going to be returning to a major event at the Blimp Hangar on Veterans Day, and I look forward to all of us being clustered together, honoring our veterans and trying to stay warm in that huge structure. Finally, Representative Weber touched on the meeting of the Pacific Nestucca Chamber of Commerce last week, and their excellent conversation about the potential for business taxes in the unincorporated parts of the county. And that was a pretty intense conversation. One point that I raised there, and I just wanted to raise for your edification this morning, was that we've got so many small businesses that are operating across the county, and they may operate in one or two different cities in addition to other unincorporated parts of the county. And I hope that there's the possibility we could take a look at a consolidated business tax so that those small businesses are writing one check each year rather than multiple checks. There would certainly be some expense to the county as they sort out where those dollars need to go to and where the businesses are doing business. But the studies are indicating that approaching it on a consolidated basis actually generates more revenue rather than having people who, for whatever reason, slip through the cracks and forget or choose not to pay those local business taxes. It would make things easier for our small businesses. It would generate more money, and it would address this problem, I think, in a more effective way than having minor having businesses required to file in each municipality that they do work in addition to the unincorporated parts of the county. So I hope we can take a look at that. Other counties and areas are doing business that way, and we might take a look at it as well. So forgive me for raising that here rather than at the hearings that are coming up, but I thought I'd share that concept with you early in case anybody wanted to dig in a little bit. Veterans Day coming up, Elections Day today, and lots of other things going on. So I'll pause at this point to see if you have questions for Representative Weber or myself.
Thank you, Representative Gomberg. Do we have any questions for any of our Coastal Caucus members? So, Representative Gomberg, I do want to thank you for bringing up Veterans Day. There is going to be a huge event at the Blimp Hangar starting at 8 a.m. with breakfast served by Pacific Restaurant, and the festivities really do start at 11. It's my understanding this is probably one of the largest coastal Veterans Day events in Oregon. So I'm hoping to see everyone there. Any questions for any of our Coastal Caucus members? Thank you for being here. So I do want to divert just a bit here after the Coastal Caucus. I want to give Tassie O'Neill, Tillamook County Clerk, the opportunity to bring us a message since this is indeed Election Day. Tassie, are you there?
I am. Good morning, and thank you for the time this morning. I appreciate the time for everyone this morning, and I appreciate the Coastal Caucus mentioning the things that they did on their timeline. If you have not voted already, today is the last day. You would need to either have it postmarked today, as was indicated earlier. Be sure you're clear that the post offices that we have locally do not necessarily have the capability to actually postmark your ballot today. So be cautious of that, thinking that if you drop it in their box, it will not be counted if it's not postmarked as of today and to our office within 7 days. Then so it would be better if you were to drop it in one of the ballot drop locations throughout the county, which is on your secrecy sleeve in your ballot packet. Those have to be in those boxes by 8 p.m. today. We also have those on our website as well at www.co.tillamook.or.us. Go to Departments, Clerk, and Elections for the November 2022 election. You can go on there for the percentages as we go through and are processing ballots. As of this morning, we had 52.29% in Tillamook County, and of course, there's more coming in. I went to the ballot box this morning to pick up the box from what I had picked up last night, and I had 5 cars that were in line just as I was sitting there. So that is good news. Remember, if you have not received your ballot, you can contact our office at 503-842-3402 or come in. If you've moved, we need an update from you. If you're active or inactive anywhere in the state, you can update through Election Day today. Make sure that when you, after you vote, you make sure you sign your ballot envelope. You do not have to sign it exactly as it is on your ballot envelope. So if I don't sign my middle name normally, if I just do my initial, sign as you normally would. And we will verify that from that and the records that we have on record through the timeline. If for some reason your signature does not match, we will send you a notice that will give you timeline in order to take care of that. Those all need to be taken care of by November 29th by law. If you did not sign your envelope, you would receive something from us as well, and that same timeline is in effect. We have a tentative schedule, so that we will be doing as close to 8 p.m. tonight, results on our webpage and reported to Election Night Reporting on the Secretary of State's office webpage as well. There is also a tentative schedule for more releases that we will do here in Tillamook County that is on that same website that I just spoke of for the November election, as we have, the ballots that'll be postmarked or bad sig, no sigs. People can turn their ballot in any county in the state. Those ballots are forwarded from our offices in trackable mail to show that they were on time. And we, if you have any questions, please don't forget to call us. If we don't answer, leave a message. We'll get back to you. Was really busy yesterday. I'm sure that's going to continue today. But our number is 503-842-3402. You can email us at our generic email, clerk@co.tillamook.or.us. You can also email me directly at toneil@co.tillamook.or.us. And remember, no question is a dumb question. If you have a concern, I have a concern, because I want to make sure that you understand how the process works and what the laws are and statutes that we follow. And so if anybody has any questions at any time, please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer those questions. We do have 27 days to certify the election results. So December 5th is when we have to certify all of this, as we have the postmarks and the no sig, bad sigs that we have to process as well. With the postmarks happening, that we have to count those after we received them through 7 days. That will delay the results that we will not have at 8 p.m. tonight, as those ballots will still be coming in to process and tally and put together with anything that we've received up until that point. And I would be happy to take any questions at this time if anyone has them.
Thank you, Cassie, for that Election Day message from the clerk's office. Do we have any questions for Cassie O'Neill?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Good morning, Cassie. It's Mary Faith.
Good morning.
Someone asked me recently how folks know whether or not they have voted, because if you haven't voted yet, that list is available, and then folks who are working on the election are calling people who haven't voted. So can you explain to us how it's known whether or not you've voted moving up to election?
Thank you for that reminder. I should have spoke of that. I forgot about that today. I know I've mentioned it on some of our other calls. You can go on the Secretary of State's office webpage. On their main page, it says you can see if your ballot's been received on My Vote. What you do is you put your name, your first name, last name, and your date of birth, and it should come up and say that your ballot has been received. I know that there's been a little bit of a lag time from when we've actually processed them in the computer and when it's showing up on there. You can call our office and we can look you up to see if it's come in. Some of those that would not be on there is possibly if your signature and that doesn't match, that would be the issue. But rest assured, we would send you a letter for that. But if you mailed your ballot a certain timeline ago, I had a lady call me yesterday about that, and she said, well, I've been looking on there, it's not there. And I said, well, we're processing the mail as we speak. I will look to see if it's been processed when that comes in, and I will call you back. and it was in the ballots that we processed yesterday morning. I called her back, and she was just happy as a clam. And so, yeah, you can go on My Votes or call, and we can let you know. But the My Vote is truly, I mean, just remember that if you drop your ballot in the ballot box like at 7 a.m. this morning, it maybe isn't in the computer like immediately. It doesn't drop in there and go poof, it's on the computer, because we have to go through and do our process and verify your signature and put it in. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions for Cassie? Cassie, thank you for being with us this morning.
yes, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Let's move on to Tillamook County Community Health Center. Do we have Marlene Putman and or Ed Colson with us?
Well, good morning. It's Ed Colson with the Health Department here.
Good morning.
Good morning. So as of the 2nd of November, community transmission of COVID-19 remains high because we've had a test positivity rate of over 10%. Though we've had less than 10 new cases of COVID-19, our test positivity rate was 20.87% measured over the past week for the county. So, however, community level of the community level of disease impact is low, with 0 new COVID-19 cases admitted to the hospital and a 0.1% per 100,000 staffed inpatient beds being occupied by confirmed COVID-19 patients. So the CDC does provide these measurements per their COVID-19 community levels map tool that helps individuals make decisions about their personal risk and safety. So we want to remind everybody to stay up to date with your COVID-19 vaccines, get tested if you have symptoms, wear a mask if you have symptoms, a positive test or exposure to someone with COVID-19, and to wear a mask on public transportation and in healthcare settings. Individuals may also choose to wear a mask at any time as an additional precaution to protect yourself and others. We wanted to let everybody know, with November being here, open enrollment is open. Many more individuals, families, and small businesses in Oregon can now find health insurance and savings to help pay for it. So you can take a look at healthcare.gov to find a private plan or to see if you're eligible for the Oregon Health Plan. Open enrollment started November 1st and goes through December 15th, with coverage starting January 1st of the new year. All Oregonians can apply for coverage, and no one can be denied coverage because of a pre-existing health condition. For anybody who would like assistance, we do have certified health insurance enrollment assisters with services available both in English and Spanish. You can give us a call, 503-842-3924, to schedule an appointment. And if you wanted to take a look at any available plans, you can shop online at healthcare.gov. We also want to remind everyone to, like we said, stay up to date with vaccinations. It's the best protection against flu and COVID-19 as we move into the fall and winter. We were very grateful to be one of the many participating organizations at the Veterans Stand Down at the fairgrounds this past Thursday. We administered both flu and bivalent booster vaccines, and care coordinators were able to schedule medical and dental appointments for veterans and connect individuals with additional services. This last Sunday, we were able to host a Spanish-speaking vaccine clinic at Sacred Heart Church. We were thrilled to have some partners from SOS Tillamook alongside us that provided local resources for those interested. And finally, that leads us to our last walk-in clinic today, to November 8th. It's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the fairgrounds. Again, this is the last walk-in clinic that our staff will be hosting this year. To find other places to get an updated COVID-19 booster or flu shot, please visit getvaccinated.oregon or call 211. And real quick, Commissioner Yamamoto, in regards to flu cases, and I know you were interested in the number, since we've been working with our pop-up vaccine clinics, we haven't been able to grab the last data, but now that our last clinic is today, we'll be able to take a look at some flu data that might be happening in Tillamook County, but OHA does have a dashboard online that anybody could look at any time regarding flu cases. And so with that, that's our community update for the health department. We'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Ed, for that information. As always, it's great you being here with us. Do we have any questions for Ed Colson? Thanks as always. Let's go to the Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy. Gail Nelson. Gail, are you with us?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Ed, for your updates. And yes, it is open enrollment season. The Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy has 2 certified insurance enrollment navigators who can help people find an insurance plan that meets their needs. We are planning an open enrollment event in Tillamook in early December to help those to sign up. More details available next week, but please give us a call anytime at 800-368-5182 and ask for an appointment with one of our enrollment navigators. There is no charge for this service, and we are pleased to offer it to the entire community, not just our patients. And yes, we also have flu vaccines available, including the 65 and up variety. If anyone wants to schedule a flu shot, again, they can call us at 800-368-5182. Couple more brief announcements. We are closed Friday in observance of Veterans Day, and we're here to serve you. If you're interested in scheduling an appointment with one of our providers, including behavioral health, please call at 800-368-5182 for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail, for being here, as always. Any questions for Gail Nelson? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to the Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Frank Hanna-Williams. Frank.
Good morning, commissioners and all.
Good morning.
Frank Hanna-Williams, Director, Tillamook Family Counseling Center, behavioral health services for Tillamook County residents. You can reach us for information and for appointments by calling 503-842-8201 or by calling 1-800-962-2851. Just want to share that as during this week and during the coming week, we are continuing to encourage people, number one, to take advantage of the flu vaccines that are available, and also to take advantage of the fact that we have some very fine healthcare providers as partners in the community. For those folks that we see who have yet to get connected with a primary care provider, so we make sure that we are continuing to share that information and to not take for granted that people are connected with the health care services that they need to be. So we're continuing to encourage that, and that's pretty much my report for today, but if there are any questions, I will take them.
Thank you, Frank, as always, for being here. Any questions for Frank Hanna-Williams? Thank you, Frank. Let's move on to the Sheriff's Office. We have Sheriff Josh Brown with us this morning.
Good morning. I am here today.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Don't have anything major or any significant updates. I thought maybe I would share some stats from the month of October so everybody kind of knows what their Sheriff's Office has been doing. So for the month of October 2022, so basically this year, we responded to 1,550 calls for service in that month. Out of those calls, 38 of them were for disturbances, 10 of them were for assaults. We did 103 traffic stops, and 22 arrests were made, and theft calls was about 34 that we responded to. For comparison, last year, 2021, the month of October, the numbers were very similar, only being off by a few numbers in most of those categories, with the exception of one. There was a significant spike in the theft calls that we responded to. In 2021, we responded to 21. So in just a month's time, that's 13 more theft calls that we responded to. Interesting stat, to say the least. Don't know if I can give a reason or anything, but it's just something that's noteworthy. Obviously, I would encourage people, if we're starting to see a trend of upward theft calls or of that nature. Security cameras are very inexpensive, very easy to install these days. I would recommend those to anybody if they were considering it. Floodlights, things of that nature. Make sure that your doors are locked and your home is secure and equipment or tools are secure as well. That really gives you the best chance of avoiding having anything taken from your property or your vehicle. Last thing I'd like to say is as we approach winter, we start seeing colder temperatures, wetter roads, snow, ice, things of that nature. And it's always good to remind everybody to just take a deep breath and slow down and be safe. The last thing that we or any of us here would want is to respond to a crash that one of you may be in. So slow down, be cautious, take your time. The weather is tricky and can flip on a hat or on a dime. So just be aware of that and drive careful. With that, I can take any questions, but that's what I've got.
Thank you, as always, Sheriff, for being here. Do we have any questions for Sheriff Brown? Thank you, Sheriff.
You bet.
Let's go on to emergency management. Randy Thorpe. Randy. No, I'm not sure I see Randy with us this morning. Randy, are you there? Okay. Let's move on to the Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Bell, why don't you start us off?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I can say that Randy Thorpe, our emergency manager, got through his first flood in Tillamook County over the weekend. Of course, we had some minor flooding mainly in central Tillamook County, but there was also a problem with a private bridge in Nesquin. And what came out of it in Randy's report yesterday is how well all of our agencies work together. So Randy reported that he had great interaction with 911 and with the fire district and with our sheriff's office, of course, and with local police. And so it was heartening to hear how all of those agencies are working together so well. So it was his first emergency here and a small one for him to get started on. So we'll hope for a mild winter in all senses, including the emergency senses. I am glad to be back on this call. I've been missing from this call for 6 weeks while I took a class that I would not have signed up for if I'd realized it was at 8 a.m. on Tuesdays, because I love this call. But it was, in fact, it was in Eastern time. It was Eastern time, and I didn't calculate it correctly, and so I thought it was safe, but in fact it was 8 o'clock our time. So I'm glad to be back on this call, and I've missed it. People have asked me, where are you? How come you're not on the call? I really like this call. I like how everybody comes together and we get this update and people listen to it, and there's always interesting things from the Coastal Caucus, and so I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back on Election Day. I want to thank Cassie O'Neill, County Clerk, and her staff and all of her volunteers. As Representative Gomberg said, I stopped down yesterday and visited them for a minute and took them some treats, and it's amazing to me how well and efficient how our elections work like a well-oiled machine. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that we have vote by mail in Oregon, because it provides for access for everybody, for really very simple access, voting from the privacy of your home, and you can mail it or you can drop it off, which is recommended if you haven't done it before now, to drop off your ballot and to make sure that it gets in time today. I just think people don't have to take off time from work here. We don't have to stand in long, wet, rainy lines here, which I remember from when I was young in Oregon. We stood in lines to vote, and it's not a problem for people with mobility issues or child care issues or people who are sick, or, we have the voting by mail really provides for access for everyone, and I'm very grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the work of our clerk's office that we can have complete confidence in our election process. So I think that's wonderful. One thing I was interested in as I was voting is, I talked to my son about this, I talked to a couple people about this, about how the measures can be written in a way that is tricky. And I don't know whether or not it's intentionally tricky. I can't speak to that. But in particular, I had several conversations about Measure 112, which says that it amends the Constitution by removing language allowing slavery and involuntary servitude as punishment for crime. So if you just look at that on the surface, you think, well, of course we don't want that. Of course we don't want slavery and involuntary servitude in Oregon. So, but I thought, what does this really mean? So I was digging into it, and there are just a few hints of what this is actually about. Like at one point, it says in the estimate of financial impact, it says, the measure does not require additional state government revenues or expenditures. However, the impact of the measure will depend on potential legal actions or changes to inmate work programs. And I thought, changes to inmate work programs? What's going on there? So I contacted a friend of mine who works for the state in a penal institution, and she said, oh, that's about inmates not having to work because the state isn't paying the minimum wage to work. And I thought, wait a second. And I remember when, I don't know how long ago this was, but when I was younger, that Oregon voters voted in that we wanted inmates to be able to do meaningful work while they were incarcerated. And so anyway, this is I'm not telling anybody how to vote, but I'm making the example that sometimes ballot measures are tricky and they require a little digging in order to figure out what they're really saying or what the intention really is. And in addition to that, I want to say that discourages some people from voting. Some people just they don't understand the ballot measure, or they don't know the candidates, or so they just think, I don't even want to bother voting. So I want to encourage everybody to vote. And if you don't understand something, or you don't care about a particular issue, or you don't have to vote on every measure. You can vote on the things that you do know your opinion, or you do know the candidate you want. You don't have to vote on every measure, but please vote, because especially in a small community like ours, some of the things that we vote on can come down to one person makes a difference. They can be that close. And so it's really true that your vote counts. And I hear this all the time. I'm sure we all do, like, oh, my vote doesn't count. It does. Your vote counts. If you don't vote, that counts. So I just really encourage people to vote, because we can vote from home. Talk about your vote with your family members, with your trusted friends. It's just it's such an important part of participating in our community. So I think that's all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell. Let's move on to Commissioner Scar. Commissioner Scar, are you with us? Oh.
Good morning. Am I unmuted?
No, my audio has been dropping in and out, so I hear you now.
You do hear me. Okay, mine has too, so I shifted to my telephone. So then I assumed I was muted anyway. The struggle is real. I now understand why Representative Weber always says, I think I'm muted. Am I unmuted? You never know if you're muting or unmuting yourself when you begin. So I'm sorry about that. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I will just speak ever so briefly about the election, because I think that we've had lots and lots of really good conversation and comments, and I will just say thank you to everyone who's participating in that downstairs. I've walked by and seen our observers in the hallway. They have a video feed into the rooms so they can watch what's happening, and I appreciate them taking their time to do this. They are volunteers. This is a part of what's important in our system. So I want to thank them. I obviously want to thank all of our staff in the clerk's office, both full-time, regular, and our temporary, that make this happen. It is a big ramp up for us, and I just appreciate everyone who's doing that work. And then what has already been said to all of us as voters, please vote. It is super important. Okay, I will leave that there. Mine's going to be just quick information. We have a short-term rental advisory committee today beginning at 9:30 a.m. The in-person meeting is held in the library. There is an online link that you can find on the community development webpage, and I invite anyone with interest to please join us. Today we will have an attorney with us, Attorney Kearns, who we have hired specifically to assist us in the amendments we are making to our short-term rental ordinance. He is a specialist in short-term rental law, if you will. So he is very, very familiar with the case law that has happened recently and in the past that really guides what we can and cannot do legally in putting together our short-term rental ordinance. So there have been a lot of questions, a lot of folks who have sent in public comment relating to what are we going to do and what can we do? How does that relate to land use law? How does that relate to, again, case law, things that have happened in the past? What can we do retroactively? What can we do only going forward? These are all really important questions, and they are all questions that are driven by the law. So if you're interested in that aspect of it, I invite you to either join us in the room or to go again to the Community Development webpage, to the short-term rental tab, which you'll find on the left, and you can find the link to join us online or by telephone if you'd like to listen in. So that starts at 9:30 this morning. I also wanted to let folks know that next Monday on the 14th, we will be having a Salmonberry Trail Intergovernmental Agency meeting here in Tillamook, the first in-person meeting since the beginning of COVID. We're excited to have all of us together again. It will be at the Department of Forestry. We will meet there initially at 9 a.m. and then it is a field trip. We are going to go out to the corner there between Barview Jetty or the Barview area and Garibaldi and take a look at where the tracks come around that corner. That is one of the most challenging places along the Salmonberry Trail. It has significant interplay with ODOT due to the rock wall on that corner and the need for safety there. It also has interplay with the bay and the riprap, of which would have to be potentially put in there to widen out there. It's a very complex corner, but it would be a great opportunity for us to look and say, what are solutions? We have Oregon Coast Railroad going to be providing a potential solution to it, as will ODOT. So it should be a great meeting. I encourage people who are interested in the Salmonberry Trail to feel free to, again, you can join us in person. It is a public meeting. And I would suggest checking in with us at 9, and you can also participate in the field trip. You would need your own car. And then we will go back to the Department of Forestry following the field trip to have some discussion. So let folks know that one's coming. Monday the 14th, Department of Forestry office here in Tillamook. And then the last thing I will mention is just that next week, Tuesday through Friday, is the Association of Oregon Counties Conference. It actually begins Monday evening. So I will be out of the office the entire week for that conference. I expect the other commissioners will be for all or part of it as well. So we will not be having a Board of Commissioners meeting on Wednesday the 16th, and we also will not be having a board briefing on the 16th. With that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Yamamoto. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scar. Yes, things do remain busy. I just want to cover just a couple of things. Last Tuesday, a week ago Tuesday in the evening, starting at 5 o'clock, we had our monthly South Tillamook County Emergency Volunteer Corps meeting. Marge Josa has turned over, even though she's still an active member of the group, Marge Josa has turned over the reins of the organization to David Sears, who is doing a great job in running the South Tillamook County Emergency Volunteer Corps. It's important that we be prepared. It's interesting that just less than a week after that meeting, we had our first minor flooding in the area, so we need to be prepared for all kinds of things: wind events, landslides, flooding. I know we continue to talk about the big one, the Cascadia style event. So if you are not prepared, please become prepared. And the Emergency Volunteer Corps, of which we have 2 in Tillamook County, the South Tillamook County Emergency Volunteer Corps, and of course the EVC Emergency Volunteer Corps of Nehalem Bay, which is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. They've been doing this for well over 20 years and are more than happy to share with any other groups all throughout Oregon, which is terrific. We do appreciate that so much. And just a quick note, we do need to start an emergency volunteer corps here in Central County. We keep working on that. We keep talking to people about that. It's important that Central County has the same advantages as North County and South County in having an active emergency volunteer corps in the area. So if you have an interest, please reach out. You can reach out to me if you like, and we can certainly assist you in putting that group together for Central County. So the only other thing I want to talk about is on Saturday, both Sarah Apsher, Director of Community Development, and I attended a special Pacific City Woods Citizens Advisory Committee meeting at the Kiawanda Center, and it was to discuss specific issues. We talked about the NOAA Fisheries FEMA BIOP. That took the majority of our time, but we're getting down to the bitter end of that BIOP, and I know you've heard me speak of this quite a bit. We have a letter out currently to every commissioner in the state of Oregon asking for their support as we look to slow down this BIOP. It was a great meeting there. We also discussed the short-term rental pause and the upcoming update to the short-term rental regulations, and that also created a lot of interest in the community. And one that we didn't have on the agenda, but we decided we need to talk about it, was the business license fee in unincorporated areas of the county. And we had some questions. Very well-behaved group, and I think if you explain it to them properly, I think they're going to understand that this is for the benefit of all. And in Tillamook County, we're all small businesses, and small business, especially new ones, assistance in HR issues and labor law and finance and just all sorts of things. And that's where the EDC of Tillamook County can really be of assistance to small businesses throughout the county. So again, we do have a couple of public hearings coming up. The first one, I believe, is on the 30th of November, last day of the month. And I believe our second public hearing on that is December 14th. So if you want to discuss this issue, you can call the commissioner's office, or I would recommend that you come to our public hearing, and we'd be more than happy to hear your views on what's going on here. So with that, I think I will end my report, and let's move on to the cities. So the city of Manzanita, it's my understanding Mike Scott has decided that he is no longer going to be able to attend our meetings. Do we have anyone else from the city of Manzanita that would like to give a report? How about the city of Nehalem? Do we have Melissa Thompson Kiefer? Or Mayor? No? How about the city of Wheeler? Do we have Mayor Doug Honeycutt? City of Rockaway Beach, Mayor Sue Wilson. City of Garibaldi, do we have Mayor Tim Hall with us? How about the city of Bay City, Mayor David McCall? Very quiet in the cities today. City of Tillamook, Nathan George. Nathan.
Good morning, Commissioner. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Wonderful. Good morning. Thank you very much. Yes, first of all, the city would like to thank, as it is echoed in some of our other discussions, but the other comments. So I'd like to thank Randy Thorpe, our Tillamook County Emergency Management Director at the Tillamook Fire District, all the county departments, including the Sheriff's Office and the Streets Department, the 911 District, the ODOT, and all other agencies and volunteers that are involved in the preparation, mitigation, assistance on the storm over the past weekend. Want to know Mr. Thorpe contacted the city's police department, public works department, and city manager myself directly to coordinate. This was greatly appreciated. Wanted to give a quick update on our regular council meeting last night. So we had the minutes from the previous session were approved. Randy Thorpe, our Tillamook County Emergency Management Director, gave a great presentation and updated the council on what's going on with the county, in the county, with the county, and with all the other agencies working together in the efforts he's done. There were a lot of great questions from our councilors, and he was able to provide that information. We greatly appreciate that. Also, we had the second reading and adoption on an ordinance it was over on the Don Helmick Lane. If anybody has more questions on that, they can contact our planning department. Also, we held first reading and a public hearing on the ordinance amending selected sections of the city's zoning code regarding sign standards and requirements. This is essentially to allow for more flexibility and larger signs within certain commercial zones within the city. Also, we had a request to approve an agreement regarding tourism management program with the Tillamook Area Chamber of Commerce in the city, and with a couple of modifications that the council wants. That was approved and will be signed excuse me, in the near future here. Also, we had the City Manager Operations monthly report. I won't go over that because it's quite lengthy, but I will say for the public, if you're interested in seeing all of our operations on a monthly basis, please go to our first regular meeting each month, and it is posted on there, on the report of the reports. We also had a closed executive session regarding potential or current litigation, and also performance evaluation, or that's what the topic was, revolving evaluation / performance evaluation. So, secondly, it was announced last night, and I'm announcing again, on December 3rd, between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m., the City of Tillamook will be celebrating our 20th annual tree lighting ceremony. Please bring your families to City Hall for a festive time filled with all the cozy feels this holiday season. City of Tillamook will be holding a coloring contest, a winter's market full of local vendors, performance from locals, hot cocoa and popcorn stand, photos with Santa, annual tree lighting, a performance by the Tillamook High School Choir, catered food, lots and lots of helping elves to help you throughout the event. Following the annual tree lighting ceremony, the city will host the annual light parade, which is sponsored, organized, and put on by the Tillamook Area Chamber of Commerce President, Lisa Greiner. It's supported by the Chamber. It's actually put on by Lisa Greiner. The city hopes you will stay and enjoy the parade, too. In the police department is working with the Sheriff's Office and CARE Inc., conducting site visits of encampments for people struggling with housing to build relationships and offer services to them. We feel it's important to look for the sustainable long-term solutions in our community to help those getting through some difficult experiences. I just really wanted to thank our County Sheriff's Office and CARE Inc. for being willing to partner on this. On Friday, the 4th, Chief Rao met with Chief Justice Martha Walters and the State Court Administrator Nancy Kozine to provide information on the proactive work that our police department is doing to help those suffering from mental health, addiction, and homelessness in our area. Chief Rao answered questions, provided specific examples regarding the current challenges in our local criminal justice system and how the courts don't have the necessary resources or staffing to effectively deal with many of those issues presented to them. Once again, we greatly appreciate the County Sheriff's Office, the county, and CARE Inc. and coordinating and working together with us on these situations. Also, our school resource officer Olson attended a week-long CAMI training. That stands for Child Abuse Multidisciplinary Intervention Training. The certification is necessary to meet the Department of Justice grant requirements for our local team that investigates suspected child abuse countywide. One thing I wanted to mention too, and I can't give a lot of information because it's very difficult, but there was unfortunately a death of a student over the weekend, and I wanted to report that our law enforcement agencies, our first responders, came together in our schools and our superintendent and really worked to help people through this awful and difficult trauma, and appreciate Chief Rao. Many may not know this, but Chief Rao actually was the person that sat on the board that actually created this entire process to help organizations and cities and schools through this process, grieving process, when he worked for the state. The Public Works crews are assisting a water leak south of town and preparing for repairs next week. If this warrants traffic and/or road temporary changes, it will be posted on the city's social media sites and websites. Public Works crews were and will continue to provide cleanup services from messes that were left over the weekend from the storms. Public Works is coordinating with City Hall staff, especially Assistant to City Manager, who's responsible for special events in preparation for the upcoming holidays and festivals in Tillamook, as I mentioned previously. 2 Public Works employees are in utility locating training today. This is part of keeping our city employees trained and providing the best possible services to our community and our city. The city has vacancies on the Tillamook Urban Renewal Agency and the city's budget committee. If you're interested and know someone's interested, please call or visit our website. And a reminder, you may sign up for the City of Tillamook endorsed partnership with Service Lines Warranties America to provide warranties for your sewer, lateral, water, indoor plumbing for less than $10 a month. And that is all I have, Commissioner. Thank you very much. Commissioner, can you hear me?
Sorry, I was muted. I apologize for that. Nathan, as always, thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate that great report from the city.
Thank you.
Let's go on, last but not least, to South County. Do we have Doug Olson with us?
We do. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Just a couple of things. Today's election day, as everyone said. I'm just glad it'll be over and we can get back to serious mattress ads. Getting tired of the TV. That's another stuff. I might mention Nestucca had a football game last Friday, and it was a state playoff game. Haven't done that for quite a number of years. They unfortunately lost 23-24, but it was a pretty good football game. And, you know, I looked around the stands, and there were several hundred people there. A pretty good showing from people came all the way from Umatilla. And I'm thinking, you know, in this football stadium, there are no Democrats and Republicans. There are football fans and people watching their youngsters who've gone through school and have worked hard to get where they are. And, you know, that's kind of a good thing in America. I think every once in a while we need to step back and say, and take a look at each other and say, you know, why are we here? And, you know, can't we all get along? But another subject for another day, but it was a good football game. Finally, well, a couple of other things. You mentioned, again, the business license, and there was a big, not a debate, but a big serious discussion at our chamber meeting last week, as was mentioned. And I just wanted to mention that it's a license, a proposed license, not a tax. Several people have referred to it as a tax. Now, that may be a distinction without a difference, but we need to say it's a business license. And so as we move along and discuss that, that's probably the correct term. And then finally, I'll mention our chamber will have its banquet. It's an annual banquet. We're back to a regular schedule now after a couple of years of modified or no banquets at all because of COVID. On December 6th at 6 p.m. that evening, we'll have a banquet at the Kiowanda Community Center. We'll give out a number of awards, including the Citizen of the Year, Business of the Year, Volunteer of the Year, and a few others. And our speaker is Bill Oram, who is the current sports columnist for the Oregonian, and he's a graduate of Nestucca High School and the University of Montana. For the last 9 or 10 years, he's been in California covering the Los Angeles Lakers. So should be an interesting evening. If you're interested in getting a ticket, you simply call 503-965-3633. That's the Chamber's phone number. Leave a message and we'll get back to you. And we've still got some tickets left. So might be a wonderful evening to hear from a local person makes good story and see who wins the awards and hear their stories as well. So that's it for this morning. And you're right, it's a beautiful sunny day. And let's get outdoors again. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Doug, as always, for being with us. So, again, I want to thank everyone for being here today at our weekly Tuesday morning community update, but a special thanks to KTIL for broadcasting this live as they do every Tuesday morning. So with that, time being 9:08 a.m., we will adjourn this community update. Thank you, everyone.